Speaking of which, Jerry, I want to plug it again right now because it's very important that the listeners and the people who watch this video when we put it out there get to go to your site, and that's freeenergy101.webs.com. That book that we're talking about, Free Energy 101, Jerry, it can be purchased in a PDF file. Is that correct?
Yeah, on the website there. Yeah, people, I guess, how are we working this, Steve? They have to email me or something, and then we, make their payment, and then they're able to get a copy through their email.
Exactly. That's how it's going to work. Have you decided on what kind of price you want to charge for that?
Well, I think if you were to actually go out to that website right now, you'd see it at $19.95. We may or may not leave it there. I'm contemplating $14.95. I want people to get it. I want them to read it, because part of, you ask, what can we all do? The Thrive movie, what can we all do? Well, I can give it point by point. One, certainly, as Foster Gamble and smart people say, certainly people need to educate themselves with the proper information. And Free Energy 101 is one of the very few and proper places you're going to get the information from anybody anywhere on the planet. And I'm not saying that, to sound egomaniacal. I happen to know it's true because I've looked the planet over for the proper information, and it just doesn't exist.
Jerry, speaking of true, I've got some personal things that have happened to me, and you being a scientist, I would like you to explain some of these things to me, or tell me that they don't exist, or just let me know what your view is on them, okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, this was interesting. I'm in Olympia, Washington. We realized someone had been in my apartment, and there was some things that were out of place, and the cat was freaking out because something just wasn't right. Now, animals kind of sense things.
Yes,
so I won't mention who it was with me, but we both looked at one another, and we sensed the presence there. All of a sudden, my girlfriend and I looked at each other, and we heard something, though we couldn't see this entity or individual, but what we both did was smell that the person farted, and next thing you know, like, the fart stayed there for about a minute or so. I mean, this was like rank, and we just like had to walk outside, but we realized that there was someone somehow who had entered the apartment and who had left a very foul odor.
Yes. Would you like me to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. We've got a couple minutes.
Well, again, this is a condition that has come up many, many times. Again, what we call the New World Order, the bankers call them the wealthy people, the elitists. These people have had untold sums of money to have the best scientists in the world work on all kinds of technologies, and in fact, they've acquired many so-called alien artifacts that includes invisibility, time travel, so forth and so on. For any and all people out there who might be negative, skeptical of the scientific community, this and that, people that are thinking, oh, this is just poppycock, time travel doesn't exist, invisibility doesn't exist. Well, what I have to say to those people is you just don't have the facts. You don't know what you're talking about. Science has been wrong more times than it's been right. Science said airplanes would never fly. They were wrong about that. People really need to start to think about the idea that when they go around with this stuff in their head where they say that that's not possible, so they dismiss it out of hand and marginalize it, when in fact the New World Order, the military-industrial complex has all this technology. What you were encountering is the invisibility technology, which the NSA has and a variety of secret organizations have. They don't call them spooks for nothing, Steve. They're called spooks because they flip on their little invisibility belt thing, and then they can be in your room without you seeing them.
Well, speaking of which, I wrote a book. Actually, I have a movie out there called Stop Merconi, and it's about some of the things that happened to me. But I was traveling back from Washington State to New York, and my brother was coming out of the hospital. My mother's in a nursing home, and I kind of was in danger the whole way. I had been followed the whole way. They tried to stab me, and people were trying to hurt me. But there was these agents who I determined were following me on the bus, and in each major hub that we got to, this one guy would go meet somebody else. And there were two guys following me, but one of them came over to me and told me that the other fellow was meeting with an agent, and I'm looking over, And he says he's talking to him over there, but you can't see the guy he's talking to because he's got an invisibility belt on. But I actually saw him having a conversation as though he was talking to someone, but I could not see the other person there. But this went on for about 2,000 miles until I got to Chicago, until I was able to get on a different bus.
Yeah, and people need to be aware of this. The free energy inventors, a lot of people in secret laboratories, these secret people have this extraordinary technology. They're able to teleport. They're able to have invisibility belts. They can be right next to you without you knowing it. And the more skeptical and negative people are about this, it's ignorance that can and will be used against them. People have got to cast aside their ignorance that has been propagated upon them by the schools and by the governments to keep them from knowing what's really going on.
Yeah, one last thing I'd like to share with you that people need to know. I can be on a mic headset, and I've been sent waves to my head that affecting me where if I have fillings that are mercury fillings, all of a sudden my teeth hurt tremendously, and I keep getting woken up every 2 or 3 hours in the night because of what was sent through my ears. So all of a sudden I'm realizing that something is being sent over my computer on the airwaves because someone does not want me to speak, or someone doesn't want me to have a radio show, trying to affect my health. The other day I got a message that I was to be sent a silent heart attack. One of the valves of my heart, when I tried to rhythmically deep breathe, all of a sudden I felt a restriction. So whatever email I got, not that it was auto-suggesting that I will myself to start feeling that way. There are things out there that are happening that the listeners have no clue that's being perpetrated on people such as myself who are truth seekers.
Yes, that's correct. And again, you're opening up another Pandora's box about what the NSA, CIA, and all these people have done. They actually train what they call psychic assassins. I'm not the first one to say this. There's been books written about this. The psychic assassins are taught to target the heart to cause heart attacks, or the brain to cause these things. These overly religious people, these overly skeptical, pathologically skeptical, negative people who don't think any of this is true, they're just, I've got to say, you got this thing I call in my book monkeys in the zoo. People have been taught that these things are not possible. They should think about why they've been taught that. It's so that these people that do these things can get away with these unspeakable crimes against humanity with impunity. Obviously, if you don't think these things are real and it's all just make-believe science fiction, then they're able to get away with it without even raising anybody's eyebrows. And that is the point of why they don't want people to know about these things, whether it be invisibility belts or psychic assassins, because they use all these techniques. They use all these technologies against us, and with our ignorance of not even knowing that they exist.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because there were people that used to say to me, at first I thought you were paranoid, or you were like Mel Gibson for conspiracy theory. I realized you're very rational, you're not excitable, and whatever you say you can usually back up. And I will say right now, it was because of my spiritual intuitive ability to be able to clear myself of some of these energies, do my spiritual work every day, and go inside within to draw from my core essence, that I've been able to rise above all these things and to be able to be here today with you and be able to have this great conversation. And hopefully people out there will get it. Jerry, give out your website one more time, please.
Oh, we're talking about freeenergy101.web.com, is it?
Yes, that's it. Jerry, I want to thank you today. We've got about 3 minutes left here, and I'd love to bring you on again to do part 2 or part 3 to talk about your book. Can we do this again sometime soon?
We certainly can. Do I have any more time left, or?
Yeah, you've got about 3 minutes here.
Well, again, you asked that question about what can people do. I'm really sad that the guy in Hawaii, Doug, withdrew his support from my free energy research. We would hope that he would find interest again. But there are a lot of people with a lot of money that can make this happen. We can bring free energy to the world for millions of dollars, not billions, and liberate the entire planet. People wonder, what's it going to take? It's going to take a little money on the table. there's a lot of people out there saying, don't support the free energy inventors. They're a bunch of scammers, con artists. That's just nonsense. The people I write about in the book are real. I'm real, and for people to think that it's not going to take one dime to bring free energy to the world, and anybody asking for money is a con artist or a scammer, these people are insane. No company, no car company runs with $0. They bring you cars every day. They bring you food every day. To bring people any kind of product, any kind of service, it costs money, and so people who say that anybody asking for money for their research or to bring it to the world is some kind of con artist or scammer, these people are just plain insane. So, the money people of good heart, good mind, good intentions, people are going to have to come together, foster gamble some of these people, and actually get some money on the table to make this happen.
Where someone can contact you if they want to put their money on the table and make this world change for the better?
Yeah, again, my email is jtsplace, JTSPLACE, @yahoo.com, and I really ask people, only serious, real people, to pursue that. I really, I give out my personal email there, not to be inundated by foolishness.
Jerry, I want to thank you very much for taking the time today to share all this information with the listening and viewing audience that will see this. And I encourage anyone out there who's listening who really wants to see change, who wants to see the things happen in America, not just talk about it, be about it, be part of this new revolution. Because in your book, Jerry, I will just quote this before you end, God saves souls, but God isn't going to pay your electricity bills. I want to thank you very much for coming on today, and I want to thank you, the listeners, for tuning into an episode of Stephen's World TV Talk Radio. So, Jerry, it's been a pleasure having you on today, and I hope to have you on very soon.
All right, let's do this again.
Thanks, Jerry.